Hello, welcome back to another video. In this one, we got something a little more a little more light-hearted. I tried to say hearted and fucking Luke Goblin. I tried to say the name of the channel light-hearted at the same time, and it sort of fucked my mouth. But yeah, we got something a little more lighthearted. Orc, Fantasy's Most Overrated Meatheads by Loot Goblin Nomicon. This is Loot Goblin's second channel, and bro, fucking Loot Goblin's hilarious with his stories, man. The fucking D&D stories and all that shit, I love that shit. But yeah, I saw this, and I was like... It just reminded me of a certain, a buddy of mine and whatnot who loves orcs. Fucking Guthuk. He loves orcs. His fucking OC is literally an orc. Whenever he plays Age of Wonders 4, if he can, he will be an orc unless there's a new race and he has to cover the new race. But yeah, let's get into it and see what he has to say about Fantasy's Most Overrated Meatheads, the Orcs.
Which fantasy race is a bunch of green-skinned brutes that are usually every setting's default enemy? If you were like one of the thousands of adventurers whose tragic backstory involved your town burning to the ground by raiders...
Orcs or goblins, it depends, you know.
You likely said orcs, and you'd be correct.
They exist
Let's
to
be
be
real,
punched.
orcs were invented to get their teeth kicked in. They are fantasy's punching bags, the acceptable target of violence. No moral ambiguity, no complicated motivation, just big green dudes yelling, "Kill!" and then catching a fireball to the face. Killing orcs has always come in with built-in moral cover. You don't
Well, yeah, well, I mean, they're typically the bad guys of every setting. Just look at, what, Lord of the Rings. Who are the bad guys? Orcs. In the first movie, it's orcs and Sauron. Sauron's using the orcs. The orcs typically are savages that are easily used, that just want to spread chaos. He creates the supreme orcs that are the Urukai and whatnot. And it's like, yeah, look at fucking some other setting. Like, only in very, very select settings are orcs not like the default bad guy. But they're still the punching bag. Like, even if you look at Reincarnated as a Slime, orcs at the start were literally the punching bag. They were depicted as these weak, feeble race that existed quite literally just to be the punching bag of every other stronger monster, to the point where you even had, you know, wolves going after them, the dire wolves. And they wanted to take down the goblins, or not. You know what? I fucked up. In my own statement, I remembered I referred to them as goblins, and I was like, yeah, they're not orcs, they're goblins. I'm a dumbass. They're not goblins. They're not orcs. They're goblins that evolve into. No. No, the orcs are the ones. Yeah, the orcs are the pig race. Yeah, shit, I fucked up. I thought the goblins that Rimuru meets at the start were orcs for some reason. I saw green skin, okay? Call me a fantasy racist, but they all look the same to me when they have green skin. Meanwhile, orcs and fucking reincarnated as a slime are fucking goddamn pig people. But yeah, like I said, even then, they're like, you know... They're not the stereotypical dumb orc, but they are, you know, the stronger race biologically. Like, starting off, they're like the superior physically gifted race. They're physically stronger and whatnot, but they are still the punching bag. Like, even in Reincarnated as a Slime, they're primarily used for, like, physical manual labor. But given that's what they agreed on after, you know, the whole war and shit, and they got manipulated by a demon, they're still primarily just used for that. The physical labor, like building roads, building houses, structures, all that stuff, construction and all that jazz. That's what they're used for, but that's genuinely what they're good for. Other than fighting and whatnot, because they're also, like, when it comes to war and fighting, you see, you know, a Geld, who becomes the new leader of the orcs, donning on this, like, tank armor with, like, this massive shield and shit and a cleaver. So, You know, there's still the war faction as well. But because, Slime is a more reincarnated as a slime is a more lighthearted anime, doesn't delve into topics as deep as, let's say, an anime like Goblin Slayer or Berserk, you can still see like the stereotypes of what orcs are used for, even if it's just in a very subtle way.
Have to feel bad about it. Want to wipe out an
Yep.
entire town? Totally fine. And the excuses are always the same. They were raiding villages, so they had it coming. They serve the Dark Lord and are probably up to something evil. We need the XP and no one else will miss them. And honestly, in an age where people are obsessed with moral gray areas and no true villains, it is kind of refreshing sometimes to just roll dice and fight enemies who are cartoonishly, Skeletor level evil. They're not
Yep.
here to provide social commentary or moral debates. They're here to swing axes, burn villages, and get bodied by level 3 adventurers.
Yeah, and form these sex dungeons with the women of whatever, village they happen to conquer. Let's not forget that as well. Like they orcs do some pretty fucked up shit that sometimes warrants them being slaughtered into extinction. Let's not pretend like every orc is written as this morally gray, misunderstood character. You know, like there are some orcs that are genuinely just evil, like Lord of the Ring orcs. Lord of the Ring orcs are genuinely evil that go around burning down places. Who, like he says, they worship the Dark Lord Sauron and whatnot. And it's like, yeah, like sometimes you need a character to play the bad guy. This very, very evil bad guy who's not just 10,000-year-old evil warlock sitting in a tower. You sometimes need a group of barbaric barbarians that just run around slaughtering men, kidnapping and eating children, and at times, yes, raping women. And orcs were created to basically do that. You know? They're the stereotypical barbarian without it being human, because you can't humanize them too much or else people start feeling sorry for them. Oh wait,
What is orc culture?
what did I say? I fucking ignore. Every society is just Mad Max with tusks. You know what? True.
In most fantasy settings, it's usually either a barbaric tribe ruling over a wasteland or a military dictatorship with a protein addiction. They ride wolves into battle.
Military dictatorship with a protein addiction. You know what's funny? That reminds me of how Guthuk plays Stellaris. He plays Guthuk plays Stellaris. He plays orcs, and he plays them with the under one rule government, which is kind of like which is a dictatorship. And he goes around doing stereotypical orc things of like expanding drastically, kicking down weaker enemies, and forming like diplomatic pacts that he'll eventually double cross with the stronger people once he gets stronger than them and ends up like controlling half the map. Him stating that whole dictator thing just reminded me that's how Guthuk plays his orcs.
Worship war gods,
Heyo.
and run an economy based on rocks and intimidation. And
Yep.
somehow every orc camp has exactly one blacksmith, 2 shamans, and an infinite respawn of grunts. Have you ever
Yes,
seen
sir.
a peaceful orc village? Like one with a school or even just a general store? No, it's just
Yeah, in reincarnated as a slime, yeah, the orcs were pretty peaceful. The only difference is that the justification for what they did and why they did it is because they were essentially booted out of the forest, forced into the desert, and the people and children were dying. Like a newborn lasted, I think, like they said in the anime that like a newborn was born like 3 days ago and was already dying because they couldn't feed him, and he was in all the malnutrition. So yeah, that's like the only setting that comes to mind where orcs aren't inherently the villains, and they're actually like reasonable people who just happened to have a series of unfortunate events happen to them that led their leader to taking essentially a deal with the devil, quite literally, to try to save his people, and it like backfiring. So yeah.
Tut skulls and a guy named Gorbash the Blind trying to beat the sun in a staring contest. And you think a society of bodybuilders permanently bulking would eventually run out of cows to steal and learn how to farm. But no. Orcs treat every high fantasy setting like it's Fallout, scavenging a world they already ruined.
They were a proud warrior race until they blew it. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know about that. I don't think anyone ever said the orcs in fucking Lord of the Rings were a proud warrior race. I think they were always, you know, bad guys.
I swear, every time someone talks about the history of orcs and their setting, they begin with the line, "Orcs were once a proud warrior race." You've heard this tale countless times. They had honor, they had discipline, and they had epic sagas of conquest. But if that's true, then somewhere along the way, orcs dropped the ball harder than anyone in fantasy history. Now they're squatting in abandoned...
You know what's funny? I have heard that like story a million times when people try to like justify orcs and whatnot. It's like, oh, well, they used to be this, this, and this, and because of a series of unfortunate events, they had to, you know, become these barbarians. And it's like, really? So they were like these high tier people with like with a civilized society being able to dictate right from wrong, but because some bad stuff happened to them, they couldn't turn their luck around, and they had to defact into, you know, stereotypical barbarian orcs who pillage, raid, and plunder and do these atrocities. I don't know, dude. I don't know. Like Luke Goblin said, you'd think that at some point they'd learn how to do basic agriculture to, you know, separate themselves from society and maybe build their own society where they could, you know, defend themselves, hunker down, turtle strat.
Towers arguing over who gets to eat the last goat and setting tons of fires because they think it's a substitute for central heating. And the great downfall stories are always dumb too. Some settings say orcs drank demon blood, others say they got cursed for worshiping the wrong god. My favorite, they just got too violent. Yeah, those explanations just don't work for me. At least elves manage to retain some of their culture when their kingdom eventually comes to an end.
Yeah.
Every great orcish kingdom in history is always just one bad decision away from ending up with them in a cave screaming about the good old days. Orcs are like a relative who swears he was this close.
It's kind of like if you try to say, like, oh my god, in 40k terms, in Warhammer 40k terms, it's like if people, it's like if the Blood Angels, no, not the Blood Angels, because this would make perfect fucking sense for them. I'm trying to think of a... It's like, okay, it's like if the Blueberry Boys, the Ultramarines, succumb to Karn and became these savages, all because they talked to one Karn demon. It's like... And they retained absolutely nothing of their, you know, Blueberry Boy goodness. Like, all the stuff that makes the Ultramarines goes out the window, and all they do is become these savages. Like, even the World Eaters still maintain some of their World Eater-ness from pre Horus Heresy. Like, yeah, they're still like world eaters and whatnot, and they still have the fucking nails in their head, and they're still like at most angry, bloodthirsty savages and whatnot. But some of them still remember what it was like before all that, and some of them still try to maintain some sense of honor, even if it's their own twisted form of honor. They still try to maintain it. Orcs quite literally just throw everything out the window and become savage village raiding animals. And it's like, okay, I guess, sure.
Close to going pro, and now spends all his time sitting on the couch with his beer gut sticking out, yelling at the TV. Sure, Crod,
Yeah.
you were once a proud warrior, but that was a long time ago. Now you're just another angry orc that the local king told us to kill.
They speak in
Why does every
shouting.
orc speak like a YouTube comment from 2006? Me no like this. Me angry. Me smash dislike button and your face. It's like someone watched a single WWE trash talk promo and decided that's the entire language structure. Where are the eloquent orcs? The ones that can give TED Talks on tribal law and deliver Shakespearean monologues with blood still dripping on their axes.
They're primarily in anime, not in any type of Western media. Like, I keep going back to like the only orcs I could go back to, other than like the Konosuba orcs, which he shows, which are essentially all women because they bred all the men out of into extinction. But the orcs in fucking Reincarnated as a Slime are they're pretty well versed and whatnot and well sentenced, and they can give these eloquent, talks and whatnot. They wouldn't get, like, not these speeches and shit, but they don't speak like in janky broken sentences. They're not like, me go build road, me build house, me do anything Rimuru says type shit. They're like, all right, let's gather up, lads. Let's gather up. Let's go build this road, get this shit done, so that way we can go back to chilling and whatnot. Let's get our tasks done for the day, so that way we can, go ahead and eat and have a splendid time and get slosh faced. Like, they're articulate.
They don't exist because people keep treating orcs like they don't have a single deep thought rolling around in their head, and that they are basically an extension of their weapon. What would be a lot more interesting is if you had an orc that could read and write at above a kindergarten level. Although, if they were actually able to express themselves at a high school reading level, that does open up an entirely new race for the edgelords to play, and I don't know if I'm ready to see an orc with wolf cut hair, fishnets, and a choker. Ugh,
Oh god, no. Nah, let's keep them as the dumbass barbarians. Let's not make them into high school fucking modern day emos and shit like that. Let's keep them as the cool, dumb barbarian class and shit. Like, I think that like let's leave all that weird shit for the half orcs, all right? Let's leave all that weird shit for the hybrids, the mixies.
Funny how
When you play, wait, what was I say? When you play one, suddenly it's all feelings. All right.
after years of slaughtering, never mind. Funny how after years of slaughtering orcs, the second a player picks an orc, suddenly they expect to be treated by the world as a nuanced species with tragic backstories. Oh, I'm an outcast from both worlds, haunted by war and searching for peace. Okay, Zuko, let's make
Bro, that's typically a half-orc's backstory. That tends to be a half-orc's backstory, and it originated with a brave bard and an orc. That's typically how it starts. It's like a bard got a little too frisky, and the orcs looked a little too schmexy, and so the son was made, or daughter, or whatever half orc fucking character they make. The son or daughter, half orc. Typically how it goes. The bard was feeling horny, and there happened to be insert race within the vicinity. And so this half race is born. Half elves, bard. Half dragonborns, bard. Half orcs, bard. Or at least that's how I like to believe it. I like to believe that every half race started from one brave bard who was just horny at the wrong time.
We dial it down. We're here to make gold, not restore our honor. Every orc player character backstory involves a tragic exile and cruel parents. I swear, if you let a player run an orc, you're guaranteed a monologue about how they're not like the others, at least once per session. Orc player characters are 50% trauma dump, 50% lifting heavy things.
I would play an on-brand orc so hard. I would literally ask the DM if I could play an orc. I'd literally ask them, be like, "Yo, can my orc can I like give my orc an int stat of like 5 or 4, like the lowest it can possibly go, and I'll like split those attributes up between like strength and fucking dex, or strength and con and dex." Like, let me just have a subpar intellect orc. Maybe we can have them have like average wisdom, the wisdom of multiple battles. Every now and then, like he'll like if they're talking about a battle, he'll like act like a fucking autistic child when he hears someone bring up their favorite topic that they're well versed in. That's the only time they're like properly articulate. When any of the when any of the other players try to acknowledge what just happened and how he's able to articulate himself, he immediately goes right back to dumb broken orc speech. I feel like that'd be hilarious as shit. Max intimidation stat type shit. Low insight.
Basically a gym bro in the weight room trying to get over a girl that just dumped them by hitting a new personal best. They're usually the party's emotional baggage and frontline tank rolled into one, crying about their clan 1 second, and the next second raging and tearing through a goblin that tried to go through the party healer.
Dumb but strong, right? Right? What?
Orcs are the go-to race for people who want to dump intelligence and roleplay as a weapon with anger issues.
Not me literally saying that exact same shit a few seconds ago. Not me literally saying, let me dump the lowest instat and throw everything else into like strength and con with like some dex.
They can't read, but they know how to handle an axe. Just once, I want to see an orc wizard. Imagine a character named Gork Skullcrusher the Well-Read, charging into battle with rogues that are too small for him.
Oh, like the orc in Baldur's Gate, the really articulate one, or are those ogres? I think they're orcs, but I could be wrong. I think, bro, we just fucking playing Baldur's Gate 3 on stream and whatnot, but like I think they are orcs and not ogres, the ones that you can talk to at the settlement right off the rip. I think I could be wrong, but I think and the only reason one of them is so articulate is because they have I think they're wearing a crown or an amulet, one of those two, that boosts their instat like up the ass, so they're actually like really well articulated compared to like his two fellow companion orcs. Again, I could be wrong. They could not be orcs, but that is one time where I have seen, if they are orcs, an above average intelligence orc.
Hurling fireballs that he learned from Wizard College. In a setting where sorcery is taught in schools, an orc wizard would probably be the only one graduating without 6 figures in debt. Because let's face it, every athletic department in the land is handing him a scholarship, even if he had to cut back at the gym.
Oh, like colleges with football players.
For his final, he's still benching more than any elf ranger or a human fighter. Why not let orcs be nerds? The guy who can crack your skull with the battle axe should also be able to crack out his spellbook. And when he is out of spells, he can just clobber you with his massive spellbook.
Oh, that reminds me of. Let me see if I can find it. It reminds me of a meme. It's a meme where the wizard he's like fighting goblins and he runs out of mana. And he's like, "Oh, I'm out of mana. Guess we have to show you lads how we did it back in the old days." And he like tears his wizard cloak off or his gown, his wizard fucking onesie. He tears it, and he's just this jacked fucking dude underneath. And all the goblins are like, "Oh, we're about to get our asses beat with that staff." Pig-faced problem of useless tusks. Oh yeah, the tusks are pretty fucking useless when you think about it. They really don't serve a purpose other than aesthetics. Like, quite literally, whenever you see an orc with tusks in any game, the tusks are always there for aesthetic reasons. Like, they're always decorated. They have rings, jewels. Some of them even have like a piercing and whatnot. And it's like, what's the point of the tusks then?
In fact, earlier editions of Dungeons and Dragons actually described orcs as pig-faced. Yes, with full snouts.
Ah, there it is. There's the Konosuba orcs, the ones that I was talking about that bred all the males into extinction, so there's only females. And whenever a male adventurer comes around, they take them to the sex dungeon and breed them until they die. Quite literally, death by snoo snoo.
No, they weren't terrifying warriors. They looked
Remember when I said? Remember what I said? Let's see. Look at this. Perfect pause. Piercings on the tusk, as well as rings and jewelry. See, like, what's the point of the tusks then?
They look like Porky Pig after a steroid cycle. And even though most modern fantasy dialed back the farm animal look, their tusks stuck around. Why? Tradition, I guess? Orcs get stuck with the fantasy equivalent of a bad haircut they can't grow out of. So here's the problem. Tusks are now functionally and narratively useless. They don't help them eat, they don't help them talk, and they don't even make them
like, what the fuck? Why do you have tusks on your upper teeth? That makes no sense. Why would you have tusks here? Tusks, like, unless the teeth are... But if the tusk is going to come from the upper jawline instead of the lower jawline... No, am I using that correct? If it's going to come from your upper teeth instead of your lower teeth, wouldn't the tusk be stretching outward and then curving up? So that way, it doesn't tear into your skin and shit and your lips? Which is why typically the tusks are from the bottom up. And their jaw is like pushed forward. So that way, they have like this massive an overbite. So that way the tusks, don't like fuck with their mouths and whatnot. Like, this makes no sense unless it's like growing out and up or out into the side.
Because when you're a 7-foot tall green rage monster dual wielding axes, nobody cares about your dental accessories. Every setting draws them differently too. Sometimes they're tiny little things poking up like baby teeth. Sometimes they're massive curling boar tusks that look like they'd snag on any shirt they try to put on, as opposed to actually harming the opponent in battle. Where is the consistency? Orcs are really out here trying
see, like the ones in Konosuba right there. Let's see. Like these stretch outward from the top. They stretch out first and then they start growing up. Kind of like an L almost. Like a little L. Or like a J. But the one in Delicious Dungeon, it literally looks like it's a tooth growing straight up against how they're supposed to grow.
Orcs are really out here trying to terrify entire civilizations with what is basically cheap Halloween fangs. Nowadays, large tusks don't make you a fierce warlord. They make you look like you lost a fight with an orthodontist. If they really mattered, they do something, like being sharp enough to count as improvised weapons, but no, every adaptation just shrugs and hopes.
Yeah, like even Cade in Destiny was able to use his little horn as an improvised weapon. You saw that in Forsaken when he was trying to shoot one of the Skebs, I think they're called. One of the fucked up Fallen. One of the fucked up Elixni. He was trying to shoot one of them. He couldn't, so he uses his little horn to stab them in the head. Like, that's an improvised weapon right there. That serves a purpose. But the tusks quite literally serve none whatsoever.
You don't notice that orcs got stuck with fantasy.
Hell, I think they're so useless that even orcs in Lord of the Rings don't even have tusks. think they just have like yeah, they have, instead of having tusks, they have like sharp, jagged teeth. Oh no, never mind. The urukai, some of the urukai have like the small, like the ones he says, the baby ones, extended, like slightly extended canines and shit. But for the most part, yeah, in Lord of the Rings, they have like these sharp teeth, which they sort of need because all they consume is a diet of raw meat. So they sort of need their teeth to be sharp if that's what they're gonna do. That, or they have like really terrible, you know, teeth also as well. Yeah.
His dumbest design feature. So yeah, orcs, the fantasy world's favorite punching bag. They're consistently big, loud, and angry, but no one really agrees exactly how that looks. They don't build empires, they just destroy yours. They don't solve problems, they usually end up creating even more annoying ones. And they don't get therapy for their anger issues because they get to become war chief when they're declared the angriest. But for all their tropes, stereotypes, and narrative whiplash, you can't have fantasy without orcs.
Yeah.
They're the person who got you kicked out of the local tavern, the one who derails your diplomacy mission because the king looked at them funny, and the guy who insists on wrestling the boss monster instead of listening to the battle plan that you guys just spent the last hour coming up with. And you know what? We kind of love them for it. That's why they're fantasy's most overrated meatheads.
Yes,
if you like
sir.
the video, make sure to check out my other releases on the channel and subscribe because I'll be releasing.
You know what's funny? He said all that stuff about orcs wanting to like always fight the big bad and whatnot at the end, and how they just think with their muscles and not their brain. And my immediate thought was, oh, they're kind of just like the Hulk. You know, big muscle head, big green muscle head that just wants to fight the big boss. Kind of like in Thor Ragnarok when he sees Surtur. And then I was like, oh shit. Is the Hulk just supposed to be a stereotypical orc? But like in a superhero setting? I was like, is that all the Hulk is?
A ton more of these. And if you want to support the channel, you can get 10% off when you use the code gamersubs.gg. Be sure to try out the flavor of the day called raw meat. It's perfect for the dehydrated pigman looking for a little bit of a caffeine boost before raiding the next village. Or if you
not to mention, it makes sense that they would eat something called raw meat since, you know, certain orcs, depending on the medium you look at, actually just eat raw meat.
Like watermelon and cantaloupe. If you want a free sample before you buy or caffeine-free versions of any of the flavors, my link works for that too. Farewell for now.
Hell yeah, dude. Oh, that was a funny one. That was a good one. I liked it. I enjoyed it. It was funny. Nice little deep dive of a nice little deep dive of you know, orcs in the orc fantasy setting and all that. But yeah, if you enjoyed the video, like, comment, subscribe, and all that YouTube jazz, and I will catch y'all in the next one. Later.